Brexit negotiations have come to an end. Kind of. There is still, if approved, a transition period and many other things still to negotiate in that time. So actually, no, it's not over at all, no matter how much she tries to fob it off as if it is. She has come up with a deal that she believes appeases both Remainers and Leave voters. She is of course wrong, as we all know what she has managed to successfully do is unite Leave and Remain against her. Yesterday, during a summit with the European Union, Donald Tusk, the President of the European Council, said this needed to be signed, and it would be in the best interests of MPs to agree on it, as it is the only deal they will get. Jean-Claude Juncker agreed. Theresa May of course penned a letter indicating that we now need to come together because this is the best deal we will get. Some nations going so far as to say, this is it, this is all you're going to get, all the while taking liberties. France, for example, wanting to work on the fishing waters issue. One of the major bones of contention for us was that we got back control of our waters. Macron thinks differently, and believes he is capable of forcing us to do as he tells them, because we're going to listen to a man with an approval rating of 25% and just hiked fuel prices to the point where there were riots all over Paris. I'm not sure who's weaker, you for forcing through something so ridiculous, knowing the result would be that, or Theresa May, who believes the best deal for Britain is worse than a no deal, and is Brexit in name only. Before it was agreed upon, Spain's leader, Pedro Blah Blah, while in the middle of one of his many siestas, because he's also very popular, so popular he's been compared to previous Spanish rulers, who were themselves despots. Congratulations, Pedro. He wants Gibraltar, and was willing to try and filibuster on this, and veto the deal that we had, that Theresa May had created, lol, because he wants sovereignty over Gibraltar. Now, Gibraltar is a very fascinating place. See, Gibraltar is just a rock. In fact, that is its nickname, the Rock, not this rock. If Gibraltar looked like this rock, it would probably be more commercial. I've always considered Gibraltar that place where old people go to die. You Americans have an equivalent, you call it Florida. There is some money in it, of course, and commerce and tourism, yeah, of course. But Gibraltar has been our property, or a crown dependency, for about 300 years, because of some battle long ago and we took it over. Gibraltar has twice held referendums, one I believe at the turn of the millennium, to decide who retains sovereignty over it, and Gibraltar has voted both times for the United Kingdom to rule over it. We don't rule over it entirely though, as a crown dependency it does have a devolved administration. There are some areas where we, the United Kingdom, rule over or work with the Gibraltar's devolved administration on certain policies. I believe foreign and defence are two of them. Spain has for a long time tried to get it back. It's like Argentina and the Falklands though. Neither want to be given back to the other country and want to remain a part of the United Kingdom. So I am more than happy to keep them. Interestingly enough, Gibraltar voted resoundingly to remain in the EU, but the people of Gibraltar have respected the vote and want to remain a part of the United Kingdom regardless. So Spain's attempts to veto the deal, which they could have done because of Gibraltar, which has become a big issue when it did not need to be one, is a remarkably petty thing in an attempt to not only get more out of Theresa May because of how weak she appears anyway, but also an attempt to take back from people who don't want to be a part of you. Spain's not even a country to begin with when you think about it. It's a bunch of regions bound together by a poxy constitution, some of which have had to have their regions, like Catalonia, had certain freedoms taken away when they tried to push for independence, which, by the way, I fully supported. If they want to be independent, because the rest of Spain brings them down, and generally the Spanish government doesn't work in their best interests, so be it. Leave. I actually think Catalonia would do better on its own anyway. The point is, Theresa May bent over and allowed Spain concessions. And by concessions we mean negotiations will then commence for joint sovereignty. Many have called this an act of betrayal, or a betrayal of the Gibraltar people. I tend to agree. A deal had been agreed upon, it's a bad deal, and you've made the bad deal even worse. You sold Northern Ireland up the river, and you've added Gibraltar to it as well. Could you have made us look, and by us I mean England, look any more elitist than by simply smacking the little guys down? With all that has happened, this has encouraged others, Labour no less, to call for another referendum, or an extension to Article 50's transition period. One would surmise the reasoning for this would be for us to then be able to have a general election, because a vote of no confidence would be inevitable if this tried to go through Parliament, and it would be inevitable that if Theresa May was unable to get the votes to get it through, a vote of no confidence would be triggered, she would lose, and quite frankly, we would be in absolute chaos. I spoke about this on Wednesday and Thursday last week on the Cthulhu-Kin and Friends show, for a PMQ stream and a political recap with Trups and Irate Bear as a guest. I love the idea of anarchy in this instance because it's hilarious to watch, but in the grand scheme of things it is not something anyone truly desires, even someone like me where no lives matter. To support my suspicion about Labour's position, I'm going to play a clip from some news site, I think it might be BBC or Guardian, where they talk to a Labour MP about the possibility of extending Article 50 or the transition period.
I won't be voting to support the withdrawal agreement. It would be difficult for MPs like me to vote against this deal because many of our constituents voted to leave, but the truth is it's those thousands of jobs in food manufacturing just down the road from here that are keeping me awake, not my own job. If I were Theresa May, what I would be doing now is accepting that this withdrawal agreement is not going to pass until we've had that process of dialogue, until we've given the public and Parliament a real say in what comes next, taken some of the heat out of this debate and shed more light on what should happen next instead. That will mean delay. Delay has a cost, I accept that, but we have to be honest with people now that there is no option on the table that doesn't have a cost.
Riveting stuff, I know. To support Theresa May, Jean-Claude Juncker and a few other of the EU unelected heads have made it a point to remind MPs this is the best deal they'll get, so they should vote in favour of it. Some going so far as to use scaremongery by saying, "We'll run out of water, we'll run out of medicine," which has been a long-standing, almost a meme at this point, because people have mocked this to no end. When Nigel Farage was asked about this, he was asked whether he would accept, if given the choice, the bad deal or simply staying in the EU. He said this.
No, of course not. I mean, being in the European Union, has meant our laws being made somewhere else, no control over our borders. The only minor compensation... I should be celebrating today. This is a summit about Britain leaving the European Union in a few months' time. So leaving the treaty of itself is significant. However, what we're signing up to is just impossible. So what I'm hoping is that Parliament votes it down and we leave on March the 29th without a deal.
To add to the quagmire that has become this absolute joke of a referendum respecting of the result and summary negotiations, there are articles now coming up from the Sunday Times where I can quote it saying, "If May does survive, her prospects of winning the meaningful vote look bleak. Ministers say Downing Street officials have discussed an equally dark strategy to twist arms. Quotes, Number 10's plan is to encourage a crash in financial markets after losing a first vote in the hopes this stampedes MPs into voting for it second time. A source who has discussed the issue with May's aides said, and a cabinet source has also said that would be a kamikaze approach, of course not ruling it out. To compound all this absolute annoyance, no deal has been that ace in the hole, the guarantee that EU couldn't fuck us, but apparently it was actually taken off the table in the negotiations because the bad deal we have pretty much shows that she was willing to consider simply removing no deal and accepting the terms they give us, which would include supposedly taking back control of our waters while simultaneously having to negotiate our own new waters-related treaty with the EU, which would then permit France to use our waters and stop bullying our fishermen in their boats because they're fucking bullies. To add to the further earlier mentioned, or aforementioned, quagmire, you have Jeremy Corbyn here putting this out on Facebook, where he will outright state removing no deal as well as opposing the bad deal. This is a man that is willing to oppose the democratic will of the people to get what he considers to be a good deal, or, in his own words,
Mr. Speaker, this deal is a failure. It fails the Prime Minister's red lines, fails Labour's 6 tests. And failed to impress the new Northern Ireland Minister, who just hours before he was appointed said the deal is dead. Instead of giving confidence to the millions of people who voted both Leave and Remain, this half-baked deal fails to give any hope that can bring the country together again. Isn't it the case that Parliament will rightly reject this deal, this bad deal? And if the government can't negotiate an alternative, then they should make way for those who can and will.
I inserted the part where he basically thinks he should be in charge because, yeah, this man believes he can negotiate a better deal. I don't think he can. I'm not convinced Keir Starmer could either, to be honest. But look what we got. 585 pages. You can condense it down to the 26-page document. Is it 26 or 28? Doesn't matter. You can condense it down and understand that the following has been confirmed. We will be leaving in name only. Everything Theresa May says we will leave. But we will renegotiate new terms and at the same time give to the EU to get what we want. I know what you're thinking. That sounds normal. Not entirely true. You see, all the terms favour the EU as opposed to us, even though the EU needs us more than we need them. I'm sure someone's going to disagree with me. That's fine. Disagree with me. She has betrayed Northern Ireland, who are opposing this every step of the way, to the point where Boris Johnson is rallying the DUP in Northern Ireland, although they still have an issue with the whole devolved administration thing. They need to work on that. She has sold Gibraltar down the river for a potential joint custody with Spain because of this despot. Fucking idiot. She has given in at every corner and claims this is the best deal that supposedly represents all of the United Kingdom, but actually only represents kind of Remainers, to be honest. I mean, nothing in that really favours Leave voters, and they outnumbered the Remain voters. You have given the EU everything to basically keep us in it without the membership. They've made it clear that they won't allow us to be a part of any of it unless we allow free movement, allow them to fish in our waters, and the list goes on. Oh, maintain their standards in our country, so we don't get our own rules, and we don't get a say on how they're dictated. It has to be done by an independent tribunal of some of us and some of them. But based on how well you negotiated, one can surmise those that go to them to negotiate with them are going to be as equally feckless at the job. You have betrayed the vote of the people, and I say this again, as I have done in a number of tweets. Resign before you are humiliated in Parliament, because you will be. You can threaten them with financial ruin, but that tells me you are again trying to get something done through Parliament by simultaneously ignoring the will of the people by bullying the MPs to betray their constituents. That is political suicide. You, Theresa May, have 2 weeks to rally the troops, to get your whips, to get the party in order. But even then you don't have a majority. You have to find a way to get the Labour Party or the SNPs to agree to this. And they are not on your side, because you have failed. I feel like the arrow, I should be saying, you have failed this country, but with an arrow and a bow. That might be considered an assassination attempt. Let's not consider that until 2020. Anyway, I hope everyone has a lovely Monday, and thank you all for listening.